Welcome back to my channel. My mauve collection video went up and I actually had a comment. Esmeralda, I hopefully not butchering that too bad. She asked to see the green palettes that I have, so that's what we're gonna do today. I have them piled here. Not all of them are like pure green. A couple of them are, green and purple or whatever, but I tend to use them for the green, so I figured I would pull those ones out too. But yeah, if that sounds interesting, you want to see all my green palettes, definitely stick around. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and we're going to jump into the video. These are not going to be in any kind of order. I just literally have two piles here, and we'll just start going through the piles. So first off would be one of my first like green palettes, the Huda Emerald Obsessions. This is one that I see a lot of people like. They declutter these little obsession palettes. I still like mine. I use mine a lot. Generally it's these, like the brown, these two shades, and this one. You can kind of tell what shades I use, but I still like it. Still use it. It's when I think of greens, that's definitely a palette that I reach for. I've got a couple from Kaleidos. So I have the Flower Punk. Now this is like green and pink. You've got kind of the mint shades, and then you've got like the mossy, like earthy shades, and then you got a couple of pinks in the middle, but I tend to think of green when I think of this palette. I've only used it once, and I think I only used this shimmer. I've never used any of the other shades, but it's definitely one where I'm like super drawn to these down in here. I like these like swampy colors, so this is one that I definitely need to use. And then the other one from Kaleidos is the Futurism one, the Sci-Fi Green. I think this one's still available. They've discontinued some of their palettes, so I'm not sure, but this is like a pared down version of the Gemini palette, if that from Melt, if that's something that you were interested in. But very, very pretty. I do travel with my Kaleidos palettes. They're very travel friendly. These smaller ones are compact, and knock on wood, I haven't had any of them like break on me. Ones that I won't travel with are my Melt palettes. Now this, I have the Smoke Session ones. I've only used this one once, and I've never used the mattes. I've come in here and just used the shimmers. It's like I've used a couple of these shades. I've never tried the mattes, never used any of these down here. I've had this for a while, but this I've heard is a finicky formula in this palette, and people's have broken. Thankfully mine is still intact, but I do like it. It's one of those, obviously I've only used it once, but I won't get rid of it. And then I do have Gemini. Like I said, the Kaleidos one is a more pared down version because you have the greens, but then you got like the mustardy earthy shades. So generally when I've used this, it's been for the greens. I've only ever used like this half. I've used this shimmer down here, but I've never used any of these neutral mattes. I've only ever used the greens. But it's a good palette. I haven't had any issues with mine. This is a new one, and I did do like a try-on of new products. This is a little like Maybelline. It's called the Shadow Blocks. I think this is their take on like the Kaja like stack. So you get 3 shades. You get a really pretty matte green. On the top, there's like a cream shade, and then there's this really pretty like silvery duochrome with like a green shift. This was actually decent. I did give it a pretty good review. The packaging is really like cheap, but the shadows, at least in this one, were workable. So that one, I was surprised. I pulled out the Hella palette from Odensai. I haven't used this one yet, but just looking at the packaging, like it screams green. Now there is a fair amount of green in here. I feel like you've got pretty much 2 rows of like different green, like earthy shades, and then you got a couple of splashes of like pinks and like a plummy shade, and then there's some pretty like duochromes. But definitely I think about green with this, and I definitely want to try and get some use out of this. This is my one and only Odensai palette, and I've been curious about the brand, so I just haven't gotten around. I don't wear makeup as often lately. Another one I haven't tried yet. I got this on a BoxyCharm sale. I think this is their old formula. This is Ace Beauté Oceanic palette. It does have blues in it, but I I don't wear a ton of blue shadow, so I will primarily probably just stick to the greens in here. I like kind of the mossy greens. I like grungy greens. And some of the blue shades that are in here are pretty, but yeah, I haven't tried this one yet. They reformulated their palette, so I was able to get some of the ones that I'd been wanting on sale with the old formula. And then I pulled out my Beast, my single, because I do have my ColourPop monochromatic palettes are in here. So the green, Just My Luck palette is the second row, the yellow one, and then yeah, this whole row right here is that green original Just My Luck palette. So that's in here. And then I have a couple other like greens sprinkled over in here, but all my ColourPop monochromatic palettes. Other than the taupe, I depotted all the plastic ones. And then those Adept, like giant Z palettes, you can get them on Amazon. And then I pulled out my Shroud, and mine's when it was still Butte Bean. She's changed her name to Batty Bean. But it's Freakin' Bats palette. And again, it has some other shades, but I really think about like the bluey greens and the greens in here. Very, very pretty. I love this formula. You can buy these as singles if you don't want all of them or you don't want to buy the palette, but this is one of those, it is limited edition, but she's going to keep stocking it as long as there's a demand. So it is still available as far as I know. I was able to get like the first round. I ordered it like the second it dropped. So I've had mine for a while, but the shimmers in that are very, very soft, but it's a very, very pretty formula. Next we have the Child palette. I did buy the big Star Wars palette. I don't have the Mandalorian or the Darth Vader, so I have this one and the big one, but I bought this for the color story. I don't care about Star Wars. I do think the Baby Yoda is cute, but I bought this. My husband's favorite color is green, if you're new, so I tend to gravitate. My favorite color is pink, so that's why I have so many mauve palettes. His favorite color is green, so it's one that I've kind of gravitated towards over the years that we've been together. So I bought this strictly for the color story. I didn't care about the theme, but I like even this shade right here has a little bit of a green shift, and these are this is like a greeny gold. Like, it's just a pretty palette. I've used this one quite a bit. I do like this one. I like all of these that are here. We've got from Beauty Bay the Earthy. This is the 16. They have a 9-pan version and a 42-pan version that has some like browns in it. 42 shades just does not appeal to me. Like, that's too large. I like that they did 16-pan versions, and I showed the berry one in my mauve collection, but I was looking at this palette for the green, so I didn't necessarily care about the earth tones. So yeah, the 16 palette was perfect. The 9 was a little too pared down for me, but these are like $11, so they're really cheap. Beauty Bay's got an awesome formula, and I have traveled with this, so it held up really well. My stack's starting to get too big up there. I pulled out my Moonspell palette. This is the volume 1. He does have a volume 2 that I think is all purples. This is like split, so you've got like blues and greens, kind of an earthy row, and then the purple row. Volume 2 didn't necessarily like jump out at me just because I don't wear a lot of purples. Like, it's a pretty palette. I wouldn't be sad like if I had it, but I did buy this one. And the only shades I've used, this shade, and then the greens. So there's a lot of shades in this that I've never used, but this one definitely appealed to me more than the volume 2, just because of I don't wear a lot of purple shadow. And then we have, in that same vein, from Melt, this is the Beetlejuice. I have both palettes. This is the Recently Deceased. The Waiting Room is kind of reds and grays. This is greens and purples. But again, I did try and use a couple of the purples in here, but I generally stick to this row. I need to use this more. I only used both of these palettes a couple of times. Ooh, losing inserts here. Oh, I kept the inserts because they have little like scenes from the movie. They're very cute, but it's a really nice palette, like well done. You can still get these on Poshmark. People are selling them still. And then I keep them in the box because then I can see the way I've been storing my palettes. I can see what the name is, but I think of the greens primarily when I think of that palette. And we have another one that I haven't used. This is from BH. I got the blueberry muffin, and then I bought the avocado toast. The blueberry muffin one's really, really pretty. Hopefully you can see like the packaging is very reflective. I again bought this for the greens. I haven't used it yet, but again, you've got, you know, the greens and the browns. That's very popular to do, like greens and earthy tones, but I do like the blueberry muffin one. I have used that one once, so I've been inclined to keep this one, especially because I don't know what's going on with BH Cosmetics. They filed for bankruptcy. I don't know what's going on with the brand. One of my favorite green palettes is probably this and the, I would say this, the Child, and probably the Emerald Obsession are probably like my top green palettes. This one was discontinued. You can still get it on Poshmark. I've seen it. And again, you've got greens, bluey greens, and then this like orangey earthy tone row. And then this shade looks really boring, but it's got like a duochrome like shift. Interesting, like you can get some really pretty grungy looks out of this. I like the swampy brown and then the greens. I've not really used this matte shade, but I've used everything else in this palette pretty much. And I like, this is one of my favorite like fall palettes. So yeah, you can still get it on like Poshmark and Mercari. So if you can find it, it's definitely one of, I think, Tribe's or Juvia's Place better palettes. So the Tribe palette. This is another one. It's by Makeup Revolution. This is Chilled with Cannabis Sativa. My husband Mike got this for me. I think he liked the theme. I don't know. He thought it was funny. But again, you've got greens and then earthy shades. I haven't actually used this. I think I swatched a couple of the shimmers, but I haven't actually put it on my face. So it's definitely one that I need to use. And then you've got, I think there's 2 pressed glitters in here, but it's pretty. I don't dislike, like their tin palettes generally tend to be decent. So it's one I've held on to. Most of the palettes that my husband's bought me, I keep even if I don't use them. And then my husband got me the Beetlejuice collection too. And then this is also one that he bought me for Christmas because we had talked about, I have Blood Sugar and Blue Blood. I got Bloodlust on like a Black Friday. And we had talked about, I was like, if they ever come out with a green one, I want it. I don't care what like the inside looks like. So when this launched, he bought this for me when it launched. The only palettes of his that I've ever gotten on launch are ones that my husband has bought me because generally I wait and get them later. But he did. This was a Christmas present. I like this palette. I think it's got a fair amount of greens in it. It's definitely, I would say between this Blue Blood and Blood Sugar, like Blue Blood definitely has the most blues. Like I feel like this maybe could have had a hair more green, but I think they did pretty good. Because you've really, like this is a brown and that's a brown, and then you've got, you know, gold and a white, but it's pretty much green or some like swampy, like I think they did a decent job. I would say Bloodlust has more blues than this has greens, but I like it. I have used it. There's a couple like duochrome, like this shade in here is pretty. Like I said, I have used it. My husband got it on launch day for me, so I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think those. Oh, I do have one more thing. I was going to say, I think that's it, but I do have, this is a glitter palette. This is the Emerald Gems from Profusion. I got this last year to use at Christmas because I didn't, all of my like pressed glitters kind of expired. So I've been like replacing glitter. And these Profusion little palettes are like $4 and some change. So I got this primarily for like these shades because I was like, oh, I'll use them at Christmas. And then I didn't end up doing any makeup at Christmas, but they have a red one that looks really pretty. They've been out of stock like at my Walmart. So I was glad that I was able to get my hands on this one when I did, but it's a really, I have used it. It's a really like decent press glitter formula. So I do have that little guy also. So yeah, that is all of my green palettes. Let me know if there's any other color families. I do have a fair amount of like purples, even though I don't wear a ton of purple. Let me know if there's any other like color families, like themed palettes. Like I could do like Halloween themed palettes. I have enough that I could do a video. Christmas palettes too, probably. So yeah, let me know if there's any other like groupings that you would like to see. Thank you guys so much for being here. Again, make sure you're subscribed. I hope everyone is doing well, and hopefully I will see you all in another video very soon.